The first moment I realized something wasn't right, I was standing in our kitchen, watching my wife of 8 years dry her hands. It hit me in a quiet, unsettling way, because the woman in front of me didn't move like the woman I married. Olivia had always had these little habits, tiny routines that made her who she was. She'd pat her hands dry twice, fold the towel neatly, then hang it on the same hook every single time, like muscle memory. But that Tuesday night, she didn't do any of that. She tossed the towel onto the counter without looking back and walked out of the kitchen, already reaching for her phone before she'd even crossed the doorway. My name is Marcus Hawthorne, and for a living, I used to read people for a living. 5 years in military intelligence teaches you one thing better than anything else: humans are nothing but patterns wrapped in skin. And when those patterns suddenly change, something in their world has shifted. The downside of that kind of training is that you can't shut it off. Not even when you'd give anything to believe that everything is normal. That same evening, Olivia smelled off. Not bad. Just wrong. There was a heavy, sweet scent clinging to her blazer, something floral and expensive, the kind of perfume she'd never choose for herself. When I brought it up, she laughed. Not her real laugh, but the new one she'd picked up lately, the kind that sounded sharp and forced, like breaking glass trying to pass as music. "Oh, that's probably from Claire in accounting," she said easily. "She's one of those big huggers, you know? Practically jumped me in the elevator." I nodded. I smiled. And I stored it away in the part of my brain that still worked like a threat assessment program. 1 data point means nothing. 2 means there might be something there. 3 points make a pattern. And by then, I was already sitting at 5. The phone behavior had started about 6 weeks before the perfume. Olivia used to leave her phone everywhere: on the couch arm, the kitchen table, the bathroom counter. It used to drive me crazy in that affectionate, long-married kind of way. I'd find it buried under magazines or wedged between couch cushions, bring it back to her, and she'd kiss my cheek and call me her personal phone-finding bloodhound. Then she stopped. Suddenly the phone stayed in her pocket. Always. Even at home. Even if she was just walking from the living room to the bedroom. And when she did set it down, it was always face down, screen pressed flat against the surface like it was trying to hide something. Which, of course, it was. Her laugh changed too. Olivia used to laugh with her whole body. A deep, honest laugh that lit up her face and made you feel like you'd won something just by hearing it. I used to spend entire days building up stories from work or holding on to funny moments just so I could earn that laugh when I got home. But lately, when she looked at her phone, a different laugh came out. Louder. Sharper. Almost performative. The kind of laugh meant for someone reading a message on the other end, designed to sell the idea that she was having the best time of her life. If I walked up behind her while she was cooking or folding laundry, she'd flinch. Not jump, flinch. Like I'd caught her doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. "Sorry," she'd say quickly. "You startled me." But I moved the same way I always had. She knew the sound of my footsteps on our hardwood floors better than she knew her own breathing. What had changed wasn't me. It was what she was doing when I moved. We lived in Ashwood, Colorado, a town so perfectly wholesome it felt like a movie set built to represent the American dream. Tree-lined streets, front porches with real rocking chairs that people actually used, neighbors who waved and meant it. After a rain, the air smelled like pine and damp earth mixed with chimney smoke. If you stood still long enough, you could hear the wind moving through the mountains. I chose Ashwood after leaving the service. After years of surveillance in Kandahar and threat assessments in places where showing your face could get you killed, I wanted the opposite. I wanted boring. I wanted predictable. I wanted a life where the biggest problem was whether the Hendersons next door were finally going to repaint their fence. Olivia had wanted that life too. At least, she said she did. She'd been commuting 2 hours each way to a marketing firm in Denver, and when a position opened at Northstone Developments right in Ashwood, she cried when she got the offer. "No more highway stress," she said, wrapped in my arms. 10 minutes to work. Home for dinner every night. We can actually live our life. That promise made everything hurt more. We had built this quiet, deliberate life together, piece by piece. And now she was taking it apart with lies that grew more complicated every week. During those weeks, my workshop became my refuge. I'd bought the property because it came with a detached 2-car garage, perfect for converting into a real workspace. Contract work in the security sector paid the bills, but working with my hands was what kept me sane. The garage smelled like machine oil, cut metal, and sawdust. Everything had a place. Tools hung on pegboard walls, their outlines traced so I'd know instantly if something was missing. The workbench was solid maple, heavy and built to outlast me by decades. In the corner sat my current project, a 1970 Triumph motorcycle, its engine broken down into neatly arranged parts, every piece accounted for. I'd spent 10 years learning how to turn chaos into data, data into patterns, and patterns into decisions that mattered. Civilian life was supposed to be quieter than that. Instead, I found myself watching my wife like she was a surveillance target, cataloging her words and excuses the way I used to build case files. And I hated it. I truly hated it. But I couldn't stop. The moment everything finally snapped came on a Thursday night. Olivia was curled up on the couch, supposedly reading emails on her phone, when it buzzed with a notification. She was in the bathroom. The phone was sitting on the cushion beside me. I wasn't trying to snoop. The screen just lit up on its own. And there it was, a message preview floating across the lock screen. Thinking about our conversation last night. It was really nice talking to you. Signed, N.C. My heart didn't race. It didn't slam against my ribs. It just stopped pretending. Something worse happened next. Everything inside me went quiet, like my body decided that if it stayed perfectly still, this moment might slip by without becoming real. I reached for the phone slowly, carefully, the way you handle something unstable, like it could blow up if you moved too fast. When Olivia came back into the room, I held the phone out toward her. "You got a message," I said. My voice surprised me, it sounded steady, almost pleasant. "Looks important." She took it and glanced down at the screen. I watched closely as her pupils widened just a fraction. It was subtle, the kind of thing most people would miss. A flicker crossed her face, fear first, then calculation, and finally a practiced calm that was almost convincing. Almost. "Oh, that's just Nathan from work," she said, already typing a reply. "We've got this massive project due Friday. Everyone's pulling insane hours. He's probably just talking about finally getting through the presentation prep." "At night?" I asked, keeping the same mild, curious tone, like I was genuinely interested. "Yeah. We worked late yesterday," she said easily. "I told you, remember? I didn't get home until almost midnight." She had told me that. And I'd believed her, because I wanted to. Because accepting the truth meant admitting that the life I'd built, the thing I'd fought so hard to protect, might be nothing more than a mirage shimmering in the heat. "Right," I said. "Hope the presentation goes well." She leaned in and kissed my forehead. I let her. Even though it felt like a stranger's lips, someone wearing Olivia's face but not actually her. That night, after she fell asleep, I went out to my workshop. I sat there in the dark for 3 hours, not moving, just thinking. The thing about intelligence work is this: once you truly start paying attention, there's no going back. You can't unsee what reveals itself. I'd been avoiding the signs, pushing away the evidence, hoping I was wrong. I told myself this was paranoia, leftover wiring from too many years spent assuming everyone was lying. But I wasn't wrong. I knew it. So I stopped hoping and started working. We had a family phone plan, one of those bundles where multiple lines get you a discount. What Olivia didn't know, because I'd never brought it up and she'd never asked, was that the account was under my name. That meant full administrative access. Every setting. Every feature. Including location tracking, the one marketed for safety and emergencies. At 2 a.m, sitting alone in my workshop with my laptop balanced on the workbench beside a half-torn-down carburetor, I turned it on for her phone. A small blue dot appeared on the map, exactly where it should have been, our bedroom. She was asleep about 10 feet away from me, or would have been, if she knew I was out there. Then I pulled up the history. The app stored 30 days of location data. The first few days looked normal enough. Home to work. Work to home. Occasional stops at the grocery store, the gym. Nothing unusual. Then I started lining those locations up with what she told me she was doing. That's when the map turned into a geography of lies. 2 Wednesdays ago, she said she had a late meeting that ran until 9. The blue dot showed her at Rosario's, an Italian restaurant 40 minutes away, clear across Thornton. She'd been there from 6:30 until 10:15. Last Friday, she told me she was heading to Boulder to meet a vendor, said she'd be gone most of the day. The dot never left Ashwood. Instead, it sat for 4 straight hours at the Pinewood Lodge, a boutique hotel near the airport that advertised itself as discreet luxury for the discerning traveler. I opened a spreadsheet. Date. Time. What she said she was doing. Where she actually was. 3 weeks of data. 14 lies. 7 visits to that hotel. The nausea hit me just before dawn. I barely made it to the utility sink before I threw up. It wasn't the betrayal itself. I'd already gone numb by then, already shifted past emotion and into something colder, more functional. What made me sick was what this revealed about the woman I'd married. She looked me straight in the eye and lied smoothly, confidently, over and over. She kissed me goodbye before going to meet him. She came home afterward, climbed into our bed, and let me hold her while his cologne was probably still clinging to her skin. Who was she? Because she wasn't Olivia. My Olivia couldn't have done this, except clearly she wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she never had been. I slept for 2 hours in my truck, parked in my own driveway. I couldn't bring myself to go back inside that house yet. When I finally did, Olivia was already up, making coffee, humming some song I didn't recognize. She smiled at me like everything was fine. Like she wasn't living an entirely separate life behind those pretty eyes. "Morning, handsome," she said. I wondered how she did it, how she made her voice sound so warm and sincere while she was already planning her next lie. "Morning," I said. It was all I could manage. I took the coffee she handed me, even though part of me wanted to throw the mug against the wall, just to see something break. To make the outside world match what had already shattered inside me. I called in sick to work. Then I called Samuel Whitaker. Samuel and I had been friends since I transitioned out of the military into civilian contracting. He'd gone to law school instead of re-enlisting, focused on family law, and helped me navigate things like mortgages and property taxes when I bought this place. He was also the first person who told me that civilian life wasn't easier than deployment, just different, and that the same skills that kept you alive overseas could quietly wreck your relationships at home if you weren't careful. "I need a consultation," I told him. "Extraction operation." Samuel knew me well enough to hear what I wasn't saying. "Your place or mine?" he asked. "Yours. I'll be there in 30. His office was in a renovated Victorian downtown, all exposed brick and polished hardwood floors. The conference room had a solid door and windows that faced an interior courtyard instead of the street. Private. Secure. The kind of space where you could lay out proof of your life falling apart without worrying about who might overhear. I brought my laptop, my phone, and a manila folder stuffed with printed screenshots and location maps. Samuel took one look at my face, said nothing, and poured 2 glasses of whiskey from the bottle he kept hidden in his desk drawer. "It's not even 9 in the morning," I said. "I know what time it is. Drink." So I drank. Then I laid everything out in front of him. He went through it piece by piece, calm and precise, flipping pages, asking short questions, jotting notes in that tidy lawyer handwriting of his. When he finally finished, he leaned back in his chair and studied me. There was something in his expression that might have been sympathy if Samuel were the kind of man who felt that sort of thing. "This is solid," he said. "More than solid. If you decide to file for divorce, you'll get it, and on favorable terms. Colorado's a no-fault state, so adultery doesn't technically matter when it comes to ending the marriage. But it matters a hell of a lot when we start dividing assets and negotiating settlements. You documented everything correctly. You didn't obtain any of this illegally. It's all admissible. Good, Antoine, I said. My voice sounded distant, like it wasn't coming from me at all. Marcus. Samuel waited until I actually looked at him. I need to know you're not going to do something stupid. I know how you're wired. I know what happens when you decide someone's a threat. But this isn't Afghanistan. This isn't even a security contract, he continued. This is your wife and some idiot from her office. The law can handle this, but only if you let it. I'm not going to kill anyone, Samuel. That's not what worries me, he said. What worries me is that you'll switch into operator mode and forget you're human. I've seen what happens when guys like you turn something personal into an operation. You'll win, but you'll lose yourself along the way. I thought about the spreadsheet. About the cold, surgical way I'd built it. The timestamps. The GPS coordinates. The way I'd labeled my wife's lies like data points. Somewhere along the line, the anger had faded, replaced by something worse, nothing at all. What if I already lost myself? I asked. Samuel reached for the bottle and refilled both glasses. Then we make sure you find yourself again when this is over, he said. But first, we do this the right way. Legal. Clean. Final. I'll draft the divorce papers. You gather any additional financial records you need. And you do not confront her. You don't threaten him. You don't tip your hand. You keep being the husband she thinks you are until we're ready to move. I can do that, I said. And I meant it. Patience was part of the training. You don't blow your position until you have everything you need to complete the operation. One more thing, Samuel said. You need to know who he is. DH from her office isn't enough. You need a name. A face. That was the part I'd been avoiding. As long as he was just initials in a text thread, he didn't feel real. But Samuel was right. Know your enemy. Basic tactical rule. I'll find out, I said. It took less than an hour. Northstone Developments had a clean, polished website with an Our Team page, complete with headshots and bios for every senior employee. I scrolled past project managers, engineers, admin coordinators until I found him. Nathan Cross. Director of Development. 42 years old. He had that kind of smile that probably made bored, middle-aged women in the office forget their better judgment. In his photo, he wore a suit that cost more than my motorcycle, and on his wrist sat one of those watches that practically announced success to anyone within eyesight. His bio talked about innovative projects and a passion for building long-term partnerships. Yeah. I bet he did. I wondered how many of those partnerships he'd built at the Pinewood Lodge. I clicked through to his social media. There she was, front and center in the banner image. Nathan had his arm around a blonde woman, with two teenage kids standing beside them. All smiles. All happy. The background looked like a ski lodge. The caption read, "Family is everything." Right. Everything, except when you're sleeping with project coordinators in hotel rooms. I took screenshots of his bio, his social profiles, every detail I could grab. Then I spent the rest of the afternoon doing what I was best at. Reconnaissance. I drove to Northstone Developments, a glass and steel monument to modern commercial architecture on the edge of Ashwood's small downtown. The parking lot was about 3/4 full. Olivia's Subaru sat exactly where it always did, near the side entrance. I parked across the street in a public lot, leaned back, and waited. At 12:15, they came out together. Olivia and Nathan walked side by side toward his black BMW. No touching. Nothing obvious. But body language doesn't lie. The way she angled herself toward him. The way he leaned closer when he spoke. The way they both laughed, and it was that same fake laugh again, the one that made my teeth ache. They drove separately to a Thai place downtown, parked, and went inside together. Through the window, I watched them slide into a booth in the back corner. I saw him reach across the table and touch her hand. I saw her let him. I took photos, not because I needed more proof. Samuel had already said I had enough. I took them because I needed to see it. I needed it to be real. I needed to kill the last stupid part of me that still hoped this was all some awful misunderstanding. They stayed there for an hour and a half. When they came out, Olivia was wearing that 100-watt smile, the one she used to give me. Nathan's hand rested on the small of her back as they walked to their cars. The touch lingered half a second too long. I watched my wife look up at him with an expression I thought belonged only to me. Something in my chest cracked, but it didn't break open. It just went numb. That night, Olivia came home and kissed me hello like nothing was wrong. "How was your day?" she asked, slipping off her heels. "Quiet," I said. "Got some work done in the shop. How about yours?" "Oh God, exhausting," she said. "We had this awful meeting that went straight through lunch. Nathan was being such a perfectionist. About the new development timeline," she added. "I barely had time to eat." She rolled her eyes, turning it into a little performance. An inside joke about a demanding boss, something I was supposed to bond with her over. I looked at her standing there in our kitchen, lying to my face with a smile, and I wondered when she'd gotten so good at it. Or maybe she always had been, and I just never had a reason to look closely before. "That sounds frustrating," I said, matching her tone. "You must be starving." "I am." "Should we order something?" she asked, rubbing at her temples. "I'm too drained to cook." So we did. Thai. I watched her pick at her pad Thai, the same restaurant she'd gone to with Nathan earlier that day. She rattled off her horrible afternoon, carefully trimming out any detail that might have mattered. Every story, polished, rehearsed, believable. If I didn't already know, I might have swallowed it whole. After dinner, she curled up on the couch with her laptop. Her phone lay face down beside her, but it lit up constantly. Each time, she grabbed it immediately, a forced little laugh escaping her lips, high, sharp, and almost desperate. I couldn't sit still. My hands needed something to do. I went into the workshop and started working on a wooden box. I didn't know what it was for, didn't care yet. I just needed the motion, the creation, something real I could control, something physical while my marriage slipped further into ruin. The smell of cut pine and the buzz of the sander grounded me. The rhythm gave me focus. Not on her, not on the lies, not on what she had become in my house. Around midnight, she appeared in the doorway. "You coming to bed?" "In a bit," I said, sanding the edges carefully. "Just finishing this part." She came up behind me, arms wrapping around my waist. Head on my back. It was the gesture I'd known 1,000 times, but her perfume was wrong. Her touch was a lie. I had to stop myself from recoiling. "I love you," she whispered. I closed my eyes. Did she even know what those words meant anymore? "Love you too," I said. Another lie added to the pile we were building together. The next day, she announced she had to fly to Denver for a one-night business trip. "Last minute," she said, already shoving clothes into a small bag. "Supplier issue. Nathan says I need to handle it in person. Leaving in an hour. Back tomorrow night." "That's sudden," I said, voice flat. "I know. Sorry. But it's important. Nathan specifically requested it. Says I have the best rapport with them." She was already gone, mentally checked out, moving on autopilot. Folding, packing, checking her reflection in the mirror. Gone before she even left. "Well, good luck," I said. "Drive safe." She kissed me, promised to call from the hotel, and walked out, leaving the air thick with that wrong perfume and rehearsed promises. 15 minutes later, I was in my workshop. I opened the locked drawer in my workbench, the one holding tools from my old life. Inside was a voice-activated recorder, the size of a pack of gum. 48 hours of battery. 30 hours of storage. Crystal clear. I'd used gear like this in situations where being caught could get me killed. Using it on my wife's car felt both absurd and inevitable. I drove to Northstone Developments. Her Subaru was still there. She hadn't left yet. The lot was nearly empty. After 5 on a Friday, most people had already fled for the weekend. I unlocked the rear passenger door with my spare key. Under the driver's seat went the recorder, its magnet snapping against the metal frame. In and out in under half a minute. Old habits die hard. Then I went home. The recorder was voice-activated, so it would only capture sound when people spoke. I had placed it carefully angled to catch conversations without picking up too much road noise. Professional. Clean. Precise. I'd done this before. Just never on someone I had promised to love. That night, I tried to distract myself. 3 fingers of whiskey. A book. Couldn't focus. 20 minutes, same page, mind wandering. TV. Couldn't remember what I'd watched 30 seconds after shutting it off. Eventually, I went back to the workshop. Grease on my hands, dirt under my nails, mind numb. Worked on the motorcycle until I couldn't think of Denver, of her, of anything except the rhythm of my hands on the tools. Olivia called around 9. Hey, honey. Just got to the hotel. Long drive, but I'm here safe. About to grab some dinner and crash. Love you. Talk tomorrow. Love you too. I said it to a stranger on the phone. Someone who sounded like my wife, but wasn't. I didn't sleep. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house groan around me, feeling lonelier than I had on any deployment, any battlefield. The next day crawled past like a wounded animal. I cleaned. Changed my truck oil. Reorganized the workshop. Routine Saturday chores, performed by a man whose life was quietly falling apart. I kept checking the little blue dot on the map. It never moved to Denver. It went to the Pinewood Lodge. Stayed there for 14 hours. Olivia returned Sunday evening, tired but cheerful, carrying a small gift bag. Got you something, she said. Inside, a Denver Broncos keychain. Cheap souvenir, something you grab at a gas station. Thanks, I said, turning it over. A token for a trip that never happened. Bought to make the life feel real. How was your weekend? She asked, heading to the bedroom to unpack. Quiet. Worked on the bike. You? Exhausting. The supplier meeting ran late, then dinner, then more meetings this morning. But I think we got everything sorted. She was perfect at it. Looking me in the eye while inventing her entire weekend. I nodded along, making the right sounds, playing my part. Monday morning, after she left for work, I retrieved the recorder. My hands shook as I hooked it up to the laptop in my workshop. And I hated that they shook. Even after everything I had confirmed with my own eyes, my chest still tightened at the thought of listening. The recorder sat on the desk, mocking me, and I hated that it could still make me nervous. I slipped on the headphones, opened the file, and pressed play. The first 20 minutes were nothing but engine hum, static from the radio, Olivia humming along to songs innocuous, useless. Then her phone rang over the Bluetooth, and suddenly the world shrank to that single voice. Hey, beautiful. You on your way? Nathan. Smooth. Intimate. Dangerous in the way someone you trusted could never be. Yeah, just hit the highway. Should be there in about 40 minutes. Olivia's voice, but lighter, brighter, warmer, the one I remembered from the early days, before trust became a weapon and love a lie. I got us the same room as last time, he said. Already checked in. You're too much, she said, laughing in a way I hadn't heard for months. A laugh meant for him, not me. What if someone from the office sees your car? That's why I parked in the back lot, genius. Plus, everyone thinks you're in Denver, and I'm at my sister's in Boulder. Covered. God, this is so complicated sometimes. Worth it though, right? His voice dipped lower, intimate. Spending time together on Fridays really makes my week better. Stop it. You're making me smile before I even arrive. They spoke with ease, intimacy, the kind that only comes from rehearsed secrecy and reckless desire. Every word, every laugh, every pause, it all landed like a punch in my chest. When she arrived at the hotel, I could hear the car door, her footsteps fading, then silence. The next clip started Saturday afternoon. Car doors opening. Nathan sliding into the passenger seat. I feel like we barely got out of bed, Olivia said, a soft laugh. Why would we want to, he replied. Besides, you said you had to be back by Sunday. I'm making the most of our time. Marcus texted, asking if my meeting was going okay. Yeah, running long. How's he handling all this? Nathan's tone betrayed something, curiosity? Amusement? Calculating judgment? He's fine. Doesn't suspect a thing. Trusts me completely. Her voice was cold now, almost clinical, matter of fact. Dismissing him, dismissing me, dismissing everything I had believed in. Predictable, she said. Still thinks I'm working late. Still buys every business trip. Sad, actually. I gripped the edge of the workbench so hard my knuckles ached. Sad? Nathan chuckled. One word for it. Not pathetic sad, just sad he trusts so completely. He's a good guy. He doesn't deserve this, she said, flat. As if it were trivia. My pain was irrelevant. So why are you doing it, he asked, testing her, pressing for truth. Because you make me feel alive, she whispered, her voice dropping into the register she once reserved for me. With you, I remember what it's like to be excited. Marcus, he's reliable, predictable, every day the same. That's what I wanted when we moved here. But now? Now, it's like living in a museum. Trapped being who I was instead of who I could be. And who could that be, he asked, coaxing. Someone interesting. Someone who takes risks. Someone people notice. They talked about their next meetup, joking lightly about the complexities in their lives. They were architects of deceit, laughing, proud of it. We're terrible people, Olivia laughed. No, Nathan said. We're people who deserve to be happy. Life's too short for marriages that don't work anymore. Does yours work? It works. Just boring. Like yours. Marcus isn't boring. Predictable. Same thing, sweetheart. I didn't hear anything else after that. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want to know, but because the words themselves had shattered something inside me. Sitting there, headphones on, the workshop quiet except for the faint tick of the clock, I realized I had already been broken. But this was different. Not an outburst, not a scream or a cry. Just a quiet, absolute collapse. Every soft part of me hardened. Every warm corner went ice. Every shard of hope I had clung to became lead, solid and final. She had thought me predictable. Boring. Sat in my faith, my trust, my choice to believe in her every day. She had said it while laughing, with him wrapped around her in a hotel room. She had weaponized my love, used it like a stepping stool for escape, as I had once thought she would use me to return to. I ripped off the headphones. The silence hit harder than any sound. The motorcycle sat in pieces on the bench. The wooden box I had built waited in the corner. Everything unfinished, paused, waiting, but I was done waiting. I called Samuel. I need to move. Now. What happened? I got proof. Audio. You need to hear it. He came that evening, claiming Olivia was exhausted from her business trip. We sat in the workshop. I played him the key clips. His face remained controlled, professional. But I saw it anger flashing behind his eyes when she called me predictable, sad. This is more than sufficient, he said when I stopped the playback. Probably more than we need. When do you want to file? Tomorrow. Marcus, we should plan. Timing. Paperwork. Serve papers optimally. No. Tomorrow. I'm done living in this lie. Samuel studied me like a lawyer sizing up a hostile witness. What exactly are you planning? Nothing illegal. Nothing violent. Just honest. For the first time in months, I'm going to be completely honest. That makes me nervous. It should make her nervous, I said. I've been playing her game long enough, pretending I didn't know, being the predictable husband she thought I was. That ends tomorrow. But tomorrow, that ended. Tomorrow she would see who I really was. Samuel left around midnight with instructions to have the divorce papers drafted first thing Monday morning. I stayed in the workshop until dawn, not building, not fixing, just sitting in darkness, watching the weight of 8 years of marriage compress into something I'd have to pack away, store like tools I would never use again. Monday morning, I made coffee like always, precisely how she liked it. Olivia came downstairs in her work clothes, already absorbed in her phone. I handed her the mug, the cream measured perfectly. She kissed my cheek without thinking. I let her, and wondered if she could taste the lie in the stillness I radiated. I've got a meeting first thing, she said, scrolling, distracted. Might be late tonight. New project kicking off. Don't wait up. I won't, I said, meaning it. Once she left, I went straight to the workshop. Copies of everything, GPS logs, photos, audio recordings, all duplicated and ready. Samuel had what he needed for the legal case, but I had other plans. That afternoon, I left work early and drove to Northstone Developments. I sat in my truck, waiting, watching. Around 4:30, Nathan's black BMW rolled into the lot. Reserved spot, of course, he always got the good spots. He was already on his phone, probably texting my wife about their next escape. I stepped out and crossed the lot. Nathan Cross? He turned, squinting in the sun. Yeah. Marcus Hawthorne. No handshake. Just flat. We need to talk. Recognition flickered across his face, then he forced polite confusion. I'm sorry, do I know you? I'm Olivia's husband, I said evenly. No anger, no flourish. Just a statement of fact. We should talk privately. You don't want to do this here. He scanned the lot, calculating, trying to guess whether I was dangerous. Finally, he nodded. My car. We got in. Leather interior, that new car smell he'd probably paid extra for. Expensive silence for a moment. His hands gripped the wheel white-knuckled. Will, before you say anything, he started, almost proud of how quickly he went on offense. Nothing has happened between Olivia and me that crosses. Stop. I pulled out my phone, opened the audio file, and played 10 seconds. Nathan's voice, same room as last time, Olivia laughing. I stopped it. His face drained. Where did you? I'm a security contractor. 5 years in military intelligence, I said casually, letting it hang. Did you really think you were cleverer than me? I smiled lightly, conversational, almost friendly. The tone hit harder that way. I know about the Pinewood Lodge. Every supposed late night. Every business trip to Denver. GPS, photos, recordings. I have enough to bury both of you. He opened his mouth. I cut him off. Another clip. Olivia, he trusts me completely. He went silent. I reached into my jacket and handed him a manila envelope. Inside, you'll find printouts of your texts to my wife, legally obtained. Photos from lunches, transcripts of your conversations, maps of your trips to hotels over the last 3 months. His hands shook as he flipped through it, realization spreading across his face. What do you want? He finally asked. Denial giving way to negotiation. Olivia will be fired from Northstone tonight. You will call her and tell her that, due to unexpected restructuring and budget cuts, her position has been eliminated. 2 weeks severance, generous, considering your extracurricular use of company time.
If she makes a scene?
Then I send everything in that envelope to your wife, HR, the board.
You cannot stop me. I absolutely can.
He swallowed hard.
This is blackmail. No. This is a choice.
I leaned closer. You can lose your job, your reputation, your marriage, or you can lose one employee who was never leaving her husband for you anyway.
Your call.
He stared. I stared back, letting him see exactly how cold I could be.
Finally, he nodded. She'll be gone by the end of the week. Tonight, I said. You call her tonight. One more thing. I leaned in.
If you ever contact her again, for any reason, everything goes public.
6 months, 6 years, doesn't matter. I'll know. I'll be watching.
Yeah, he whispered.
I understand. I got out of his car and walked back to my truck. My hands steady. Heart calm. Execution precise. Operation complete.
Only aftermath remained.
That evening, I cooked chicken parmesan, one of Olivia's favorites. Set the table. Candles.
She arrived around 7, tired, distracted.
Blinked at the setup. What's all this? Just felt like doing something nice. We haven't had a real dinner together in a while. We ate.
Small talk.
Nothing of importance. Nothing that mattered.
She walked me through her day the way she always did, carefully trimmed, the rough edges sanded off. I listened, nodded, played my part.
After we finished eating, we took the wine into the living room.
Olivia stretched out on the couch, finally letting her shoulders drop, her phone resting beside her like it always did. Then it buzzed. I saw the name before she picked it up.
Nathan.
Her eyes flicked to the screen, then to me.
Sorry.
I need to grab this, she said.
Work stuff.
Go ahead, I told her, calm and easy.
She stepped into the kitchen.
At first her voice was steady.
Concerned. Professional. What's wrong? Then a pause. Wait, what? You're kidding, right? Another pause.
Her tone sharpened.
Nathan, this isn't funny. Panic started to bleed through. I just got promoted. Last month.
Her voice kept climbing.
You can't do that.
The call lasted maybe 5 minutes, but it felt longer. When she came back, her face was blotchy, eyes shiny and unfocused, like she'd been hit with something she didn't see coming. I got fired, she said quietly, as if saying it out loud might make it untrue. She sank onto the couch. Budget cuts. They're eliminating my position. 2 weeks severance. I have to clear out my desk by Friday. I stood up and crossed the room. Oh my God, Livy. I'm so sorry. I wrapped my arms around her. What happened? I don't know, she said, shaking her head. Nathan said it came from above. Some restructuring plan. Everything was fine. I was doing good work. She broke down then. Real crying. The kind that leaves you empty. I held her while she sobbed into my shoulder, told her we'd figure it out, told her she'd find something else, told her it wasn't the end of the world. And while I held her, I wondered if she had any idea how close she was to the real fall. The next evening, I walked in and found her at the kitchen table, laptop open, papers everywhere, resumes, job listings, cover letters half edited. She looked up and forced a smile. I've been applying all day, she said. 15 applications already. Someone's bound to call me, right? I mean, I have solid experience. Good references. I'm sure they will, I said. And I thought about how those references were going to sound once people started asking why she'd really left. Later that night, after dinner, after she'd talked herself into believing this was just a bump in the road, I went into my workshop and came back with a folder. Hey, I said, sitting across from her at the dining table.
We need to talk.
She looked up, expecting comfort.
Maybe advice.
Instead, I opened the folder and slid the first page across the table. It was the GPS map.
Her car's movements traced in blue.
Pinewood Lodge marked in red. She stared at it.
Then at me. What is this? I didn't answer. I laid out the next page.
A photo of her and Nathan at lunch, his hand resting on her back.
Then another.
Them stepping out of his car at the hotel.
Then transcripts from the recordings.
I watched it hit her in stages: confusion, recognition, dread, then calculation, already searching for a way out.
Marcus.
I know everything, I said, my voice flat and steady.
I've known for weeks. I kept going.
I know every place you said you were and weren't.
I have GPS data. I have recordings. I have photos. I tapped the folder. I have all of it.
She tried to speak, but nothing came out. She just sat there, staring at the proof spread across the table. You need to listen, I said calmly.
I'm not yelling. I'm not losing control. I'm just telling you the truth. I waited until she nodded.
Tears were already falling.
You didn't destroy our marriage by sleeping with Nathan. That was just the surface.
You destroyed it every time you lied to my face. Every time you came home from him and got into bed with me.
Every time you let me hold you while you were planning the next lie.
I watched her flinch as her own words echoed back at her. The recordings where she called me predictable.
Boring.
Sad for trusting her.
You were right, I said. It was sad. Just not for the reason you thought.
It was sad because you turned trust into something disposable.
Something you mocked.
Marcus, please, she whispered.
I can explain. No, I said. You can't. There's no explanation that fixes this. No excuse that cancels it out. You made choices. Hundreds of them. Every lie was a choice. Every hotel was a choice. Every time you laughed with him about how clueless I was, that was a choice. I pulled out the last document. The divorce papers. Signed and ready. Samuel filed these this morning, I said. You'll be officially served tomorrow. Colorado's no fault, so the affair doesn't change the paperwork. But it changes everything else. The house is mine.
We bought it before the wedding with my VA loan.
You don't get the equity.
The cars are separate.
No kids. I paused. This will be fast. She reached for me, sobbing. Please don't do this. I made a mistake. We can fix this. Counseling, we can. I pulled my hands away. You didn't break something, Livy. You erased it. You took 8 years and turned them into a lie.
You took my trust and used it to hurt me while telling me you loved me.
So no, we can't fix this. There's nothing left.
Her voice dropped to a whisper.
Where am I supposed to go? I don't have a job. I don't have anywhere. That's not my problem anymore, I said. And I watched her realize I meant every word. You've got 2 weeks, I said. After that, I need you out of the house. That's enough time to find a place. An apartment. Family.
Or maybe Nathan can help you land on your feet, since he was so good at making you feel alive. She stared at me like she was looking at a stranger.
Marcus, you're not like this. You're not cold. You're a good man. I know you. No, I cut in. You don't. You know the version of me that tried to fit into this life. The civilian.
The husband who believed trust was enough. That man trusted his wife, and his wife destroyed him.
I felt steady saying it. Grounded. What's left, I went on, is the man I was before you. The one I tried to bury when I got married. And that man doesn't forgive betrayal.
He finishes the mission and moves on. I stood up, leaving the papers and the evidence spread out between us like a body on a slab.
I'll take the guest room. You can stay in the master bedroom for now.
We'll separate our things over the next 2 weeks.
As cleanly as possible.
I met her eyes one last time.
But we're done, Livy. Completely.
I walked toward my workshop and didn't turn around. Behind me, she broke down, the sound raw and ugly, like something being torn apart.
Maybe something was.
The version of Olivia who thought she could live 2 lives.
Who thought I'd never notice.
Who mistook predictable and boring for weak. The next 2 weeks were surreal. She drifted through the house like a shadow, trying to talk, trying to explain, trying to revive something that was already dead.
I stayed polite. Distant. Civil.
I treated her like a roommate with an expiration date.
I didn't respond to the tears.
I didn't engage with the apologies. I didn't let her close enough to hurt me again. Nathan, from what I gathered, had vanished from her life entirely.
Blocked her number. Refused to meet.
Probably terrified I'd follow through on my promise. In 48 hours, she lost her job, her affair, and her marriage. Watching it happen, I felt nothing, just a mild, detached curiosity about how she'd imagined this would play out.
Samuel handled the divorce like a machine.
Olivia signed everything without a fight. Her attorney saw the evidence and told her the same thing Samuel told me: take the deal and walk away.
It was fair. And final. I kept the house.
She kept her car.
We split what little savings we had. No alimony. No loose ends.
On her last day, I helped her load boxes into a rented truck. She'd found a small apartment across town, cheap, temporary, a holding pattern while she figured out what came next. She kept trying to catch my eye, hoping to connect with me even slightly. I really did love you, she said at one point, lifting a box of kitchen stuff she'd claimed.
Maybe you did, I said. Just not enough. She drove away.
I shut the door behind her and stood in the quiet.
Not empty. Clean. A month later, I listed the house. It sold fast. Good structure. Good neighborhood. Seller ready to move on.
I took the money and bought 20 acres at the base of the mountains, about 40 minutes outside Ashwood. There was a small cabin that needed work and a 3-car garage in surprisingly good shape. The garage became my priority. I spent 3 months turning it into a real workshop.
South-facing windows. Wood stove. Custom storage. Space to breathe. The cabin could wait. This was where I'd actually live. I rolled my motorcycle inside and got back to work. Rebuilt the engine. Sorted the wiring. Reworked the carburetor. Every night I worked until my hands gave out. Then I'd sit in the doorway, looking at the mountains, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not happiness. That comes later, if it comes at all. But peace, the kind that comes from living honestly. From not sharing a bed with someone who's lying to you. From knowing exactly who you are and what you'll never accept again. About 4 months in, Samuel called. You should know, he said. Olivia's been asking about you. Where you went. How to reach you. I told her you don't want contact, but I wanted to warn you. She showed up the following Tuesday, just as winter was starting to loosen its grip. I heard the car long before I saw it. Sound carries out here. That's one of the things I like. By the time she reached the shop, I was already standing in the doorway, arms crossed. She stepped out, and for a moment I barely recognized her. The expensive clothes were gone. Cheap jeans. Worn jacket. No makeup. Hair pulled back without effort. She looked older. Worn down. How'd you find me? I asked. I hired someone, she said. It cost me everything I had left. She tried to smile. Failed halfway through. can I talk to you?" she asked. Just a minute. Every instinct told me to send her away, to protect the boundary I'd built. But curiosity won out. "You've got 5 minutes," I said.
She stepped closer. I could tell she'd been crying.
"Recently. Frequently.
I lost everything," she said.
The apartment. My savings. My car got repossessed.
I'm staying with my sister in Kansas, but I can't afford it.
I don't know what to do. I didn't move. Still not my problem, I said. I know it doesn't matter, Marcus, but I need you to know. I'm sorry.
Really, truly sorry. Her voice trembled. I destroyed the best thing in my life.
And I did it for someone who didn't even care.
Nathan, he won't even acknowledge I exist now. He used me, threw me away, and I let him because I was stupid.
Selfish. I needed to feel special.
You were special, I said quietly.
To me. That wasn't enough for you. I see that now.
Tears streaked her face.
God, Marcus, I know. I wake up every day knowing what I lost, and it's killing me. Please, please, can we try again? I'll do anything. Therapy. Any job. I'll spend my life making this up to you. Just, don't leave me like this.
I looked at her, standing there in the doorway of my shop, broken, desperate, finally realizing the cost of what she'd done.
A small part of me felt a flicker of pity.
She looked like someone who had gambled everything and lost. But the larger part, the part I'd spent months rebuilding from the wreckage of her lies, felt only a quiet, immovable finality.
No, I said simply. Olivia, listen. Really listen. You didn't just cheat on me. You mocked me. You laughed at me for trusting you.
You called me boring, predictable, sad.
You took everything I gave you, my faith, my love, my loyalty, and turned it into a joke. You didn't just break my heart. You tried to break me as a person. That doesn't come back. I didn't mean. Yes, you did, I cut her off. You meant every word. Maybe you regret it now that it cost you everything. But regret isn't change, Livy.
It's consequences catching up to choices. Her voice cracked.
I love you. I still love you.
Maybe you do, I said, calm.
But it's not enough. It never was. Love without respect is just need.
And I'm done being needed by someone who can't even be honest with me. Her voice grew small, desperate.
So that's it? You're just done? After 8 years, you can walk away? I did look back.
At every lie, every secret meeting, every time she chose him over me.
And you know what I saw?
Someone who didn't deserve what I offered.
So yes. Done. Completely done.
She lunged forward, grabbing the edge of the door.
Marcus, please. I have nothing. No job. No money. Nowhere to go. I'm begging you.
I paused, looked at her hand, then her face.
You had me. A home. A husband who loved you. A life most people would kill for.
And you risked it for a man who was using you.
Those were your choices. These are your consequences. I'm not rescuing you. I gently removed her hand. Go back to your sisters. Figure out your life. Get help if you need it, but without me. I'm not your safety net anymore.
I made a mistake, she screamed as I shut the door.
Everyone makes mistakes, I said to the silence. You're supposed to forgive people. That's love.
I stood there a long time, listening to her cries, her pleas, her bargaining. 10 minutes passed before she gave up, got in her car, and drove away. I went back to my workbench, picked up the knife handle I'd been shaping, and let my hands do what they knew best. Steady. Controlled. Calm. Outside, the light faded behind the mountains.
Inside, the warm glow of the shop surrounded me.
Forgiveness is for small mistakes, for human error, for people who own what they've done and try to make it right. Olivia's choices weren't mistakes. They were deliberate. The only regret she had was getting caught.
Some things you don't forgive. You survive. You learn. You walk away. And that's exactly what I did.
Survived.
Learned. Walked away.
The knife handle felt right in my hand. The wood grain came alive beneath careful attention.
I was building again. Not tearing down. Not dwelling in ruins. Just building. 6 months later, I ran into Nathan at the hardware store.
I was loading lumber into my truck when he appeared with paint supplies.
We caught each other's eyes at the same moment. I watched him hesitate, thinking about running, and decide not to.
"Marcus," he said, cautiously.
"Nathan," I replied.
We stood there, awkward, silent. He looked older, worn. I wondered if his wife had discovered him or if it was just the weight of his own choices.
I wanted to say. "Don't," I interrupted. "Nothing you say matters.
You saw what you wanted, and you took it, without thinking who it hurt.
That's who you are. Just, do me one favor." "What?" "Next time you want something that belongs to someone else, remember. Consequences are real. Some of us don't forgive."
I got in my truck and drove off, leaving him with his paint and the weight of his guilt. Life grew quieter after that. I focused on my contracts, my workshop, finishing the motorcycle restoration, taking long rides through the mountains, feeling the cold air, the engine vibrating beneath me, the freedom of solitude earned, not imposed by betrayal.
I dated casually, nothing serious, and that was fine.
I wasn't searching for someone to complete me, fix me, or fill a hole Olivia left. I was living fully, honestly. And one Sunday afternoon, while working in my shop with the doors open to the spring air, I realized I hadn't thought about Olivia or Nathan for an entire week.
I was free.
The betrayal had become just another chapter in a long life of things I survived: deployments, firefights, mistakes, losses. It wasn't the kind of happiness you see in movies, the kind that makes your chest swell with triumph, but it was something quieter, steadier, contentment. I was building a life I wanted, piece by piece, project by project, without ever worrying that someone was quietly dismantling it behind my back. That summer, the motorcycle sold to a collector in Wyoming who really appreciated the work I'd done. I walked away with 3 times what I'd invested, and already my mind was turning toward the next project.
Maybe a truck this time. Maybe I'd finally tackle that cabin renovation. Samuel dropped by one afternoon, a couple of beers in hand, and some news.
"Thought you'd want to know Olivia's engaged.
Met a guy through her sister. Weddings in the fall."
I took a long sip, looked out at the mountains.
"Good for her. Everyone deserves a second chance."
"You're a better man than I am," Samuel said.
"No," I replied. "I'm just a man who knows her happiness or unhappiness isn't my responsibility anymore. She's someone I used to know. That's it." And it was true.
Olivia Hawthorne was someone I used to know, a character in a story about a man I used to be. Marcus Hawthorne, the man who'd been betrayed, hurt, and methodically dismantled his own life to escape a marriage built on lies.
That man existed once, and now, he was gone. The man I was now built things. He created things.
He lived honestly, openly, without apology. He didn't carry grudges, because grudges were just another kind of weight, and I'd already shed enough of that.
That evening, I fired up the wood stove even though it wasn't cold enough to need it. I liked the smell, the sound, the ritual of it.
I pulled out fresh paper and started sketching cabin plans, new windows, an expanded kitchen, maybe a deck overlooking the valley.
Projects.
Always projects. That was life now, a series of things to build, improve, make better.
Not perfect, just better. And somewhere in the background, beneath the crackle of the fire and the whispering wind in the pines, I could hear the faint echo of who I used to be, quietly saying goodbye.
Goodbye to the man who had been broken, to the lessons learned through scars and betrayal, to the knowledge that some things are worth fighting for and some things are only worth walking away from.
I chose walking away.
I chose building something new over resurrecting something that was already dead. Every day, that choice felt more right, more true, more like exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
The mountains stood still and patient outside my windows.
Inside, I sat in my shop, surrounded by tools, wood, and possibilities. And for the first time in years, I felt exactly where I needed to be.
Not happy yet. Not fully. But getting there, one project at a time.